Hey everybody, it's your old pal Ken, aka Sleaze Grinder. One more new arrivals video shot on this gloomy Sunday afternoon. Just a reminder, we have a podcast. It's called the Heavy Leather Record Club. There's the description below. If you're enjoying this content at all, then please subscribe and like. Thank you. All right, I'm going to talk to you about some recent pickups that I find interesting, that may be interesting to you. I went to a record show recently, and I picked this one up. This is a record that I used to see in the bins all the time, and never actually picked up, but the aesthetics, at the time, the cover was kind of poor. The aesthetics have changed as time goes on, and now the cover is delicious. So I had to get it. It's Obsession's Martial Law. They were a kind of semi-doom band from Connecticut, of all places. They, I believe that after this they got signed to a major and did a couple of records on the major. Not sure it went too well for them. I don't hear a lot of people talking about Obsession now, but at this point in time, this was state-of-the-art heavy metal. This is from 1983, I believe. It's an EP, and look at those guys. Look at them. Those guys are living the heavy metal life. Look at that. Walls of Marshalls and Grim Reapers. Only Strong Will Survive. Hatred Unto Death, The Execution, and Martial Law are the four songs on here. And it is, so-so. But happy to have it. It's this was my culture back 1983, 1984. I was a heavy metal kid, and these are the kind of records that we were buying. Like I said, I never got this one back in the day, and now I have it. And now my life is complete. It's a decent record. It's not that great. But this 12-inch soundtracks. We're going to see, Stacey and I are going to see Pet Shop Boys in September. A lot of the 80s, Pet Shop Boys were the 90s too, the pop music, I didn't really listen to at the time. I mean, I was aware of it and I heard it on the radio, but I wasn't buying the records or anything because I was, heavy metal rock and roll. When I married my wife, who was kind of a new wave, new wave, she was kind of like new wave grunge, where her things, our music collections melded over time, and I learned to appreciate the music that she enjoyed. Does she enjoy a lot of the music that I enjoy? No. But hers is a lot more accessible than mine, so it's understandable. So anyway, I got into the Pet Shop Boys through her. I think they're a great band. Really agile, I would say. They hear something in the air, they're able to add it to their sounds, and they expand. And they obviously have a lot of great hit songs. This 12-inch, I didn't hear this when it came out, but I thought it was interesting because I am not a U2 fan. I've always found them very cloying and overly dramatic, and just kind of full of themselves, and just not my thing. But this is Pet Shop Boys. It's 12-inch of them doing Where the Streets Have No Name by U2. And then in the middle, they do, I Can't Take My Eyes Off of You is in there too, somewhere in the middle. They mashed them. And it's great. This 12-inch is great. It's got, 4 or 5 versions of the song on it, so it's almost more of an EP. But man, they do a bang-up job of making this a listenable and good song. It was really kind of a revelation. I like it a lot. I like the cover too. Very, continental. Great stuff. Pet Shop Boys, Where the Streets Have No Name. I think it was like $5 or something. Well worth it. These next two are reissues of one of my favorite metal bands of the 80s, which is Tank, new wave British heavy metal band, who were able to be extremely metal and extremely rock and roll at the same time, while also really throwing in sometimes really schmaltzy pop hooks into the mix. But somehow it all worked. They were they were contemporaries of Motorhead for sure. Kind of did their own thing as well, but in that vein, in the Motorhead and Venom vein, I would say, just with more pop tendencies. And they released in their kind of sort of heyday, they released 4 kind of seminal albums, all of which have been re-released. 5 really, 1 hasn't. But by High Roller, which is a label out of Italy, maybe? Germany? One or the other. I think Germany. Forgive me for not getting my European nations correct. But anyway, Tank are well deserving of the reissue series that they're in the middle of. And This Means War, I'm waiting for that one to come in. That one hasn't shown up yet. And that's probably their most seminal, but my favorite and one of the other really strong ones came out recently. So Power of the Hunter is probably, which is their second, I believe, is one of their more obscure, for a band that's only got 5 or 6 records. It's one of the more obscure ones. At the time, people thought that they were a little too poppy, that this album was a little too poppy for its own good. But I don't care. It's Tank. It's great. It's got this nice, you can see that. It's a nice, kind of white and gray marble. There's also these guys, High Roller. They're all, they got a poster in there. They really go all out with the reissue. It's on really heavy cardboard. Doesn't sound any better than it ever did. The production was muddy back then. The production is still muddy now. But it's got one of my favorite Tank songs. It's not my favorite Tank record. One of my favorite Tank songs. Used Leather Hanging Loose is on here. Walking Barefoot Over Glass is on here. Pure Hatred is on here. Power of the Hunter. And of course, I'm starting to like this record more now that I'm talking about it. It's got the cover of the Osmonds' Crazy Horses on it, which is phenomenal. And it's got, of course, 2 of their all-time jammers, Red Skull Rock and Set Your Back on Fire. So that's Power of the Hunter. And the other one that I got recently is Horror and Blood. Now, this one comes with a bonus 7-inch, right? Doesn't it? I'm pretty sure it does. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe that one does. One of them does. But it comes with a kind of a tour programming thing. Also comes with a poster. Anyway, this was my favorite Tank record. And it is also, I would say, unlike what people said about Power of the Hunter, I think this is their most commercial and poppy. It's got a cover of Chain of Fools on it. Wasting My Life Away is kind of a ballad. Too Tired to Wait for Love. It's also kind of a ballad. So the whole B-side is really kind of like poppy and maudlin. And the A-side, of course, is all their, the war songs that you expect from Tank. But I think all of it is really good and catchy and rocking. And yeah, I love this record a lot. So, and this one was really hard to find originals of. Like many of you, I owned all these records when I was a teenager. And then, life happened. You move. You don't want to carry all this stuff around with you. You think it'll always be there. And then it's not. And then you end up being a middle-aged man or woman like myself. And you have to buy all your old records again for exorbitant prices. That's life. All right, I've been working on my Kim Fowley collection. Kim Fowley is, of course, Rock and Roll Frankenstein. He was the manager of the Runaways. Very villainous character these days, and that's understandable. But I like his music a lot. And I've been working on completing my collection of his studio discography. And this was one I've been looking for a while. Finally found a copy for a decent price. It's I'm Bad. This was from 1972. And what I like about this one, especially, is that Kim Fowley on his records, and all of his records are kind of glammy, very rockin'. But he will do 2 or 3 songs where he's obviously trying. And then the rest is him just fucking around. It's him making prank phone calls, or him just like mumbling over a backing track. So it's very hard to love Kim Fowley records. But I would say that this one, for whatever reason, is his most consistent. He does the least fucking around on this one, on most of the records that he's done. So for that alone, it's worth listening to. But you know, Queen of Stars, California Gypsy Man, Great to Be Alive, Let It Loose, all really, really good, rocking glam rock. Kim Fowley, everybody. By the way, fair to say that most rockers who have any consequence in the 60s and 70s had some nefarious stuff going on in their lifestyles. Not just Kim, everybody. Compilation I picked up at in Brookline, at Vinyl, Village Vinyl. It's called Asian Disco. It's bootleg from Aberrant Records, and it's, you know, it's one of these deals where it's you know, it's a crate digger that has a lot of great singles, and they put out an album without any licensing. But you know, I think it would be very hard to find the people that owned you know, the rights to these songs in the first place. So unlike the title, the subtitle, I think, explains it more, because the subtitle is Disco Divas, Funky Queens, and Psych Ladies from Asia from the 70s to the early 90s, which is more accurate than Asian Disco because it's not a disco record. It is mostly a psychedelic fuzz record. So if you are hip to, you know, that kind of like early 70s, you know, Cambodian, Vietnamese fuzz rock, there's a lot of that on here. And there is some actual disco, but you know, it's mostly filtered through that kind of Cambodian fuzz, and it's great. Love it. Apparently there's a Taiwan disco version as well, so I'm going to be seeking that out. You can see here on the bottom they have the covers of the original singles that these came from, and it's great. I love it. Really good listen. And finally, this week, or in this segment, went to Stereo Jacks with Stacey yesterday, and I picked up this pretty sweet Bowie bootleg. It's on Carneyphone. It's called His Master's Voice, the first farewell tour, 1973, and I got it. I'm not the biggest Bowie fan, but I am a huge Ziggy Stardust fan, and this is from that era, from that tour, from those shows. So that, how's it sound? It sounds how you think it sounds. It sounds like a bootleg from 1973 that was recorded in the middle of the audience on a cheap Radio Shack tape recorder. But, you know, still, it's great though, right? You wouldn't buy that if you saw it? $20. Hot dog. Love it. There you go, everybody. There's some new arrivals. Hopefully found something that interested you. I am interested in what you've picked up lately. So let me know. Again, we have a great podcast, really fun. Talk about new releases, talk about new arrivals, rants, raves, all that kind of stuff. You can check it out. It's in the description. It's called the Heavy Leather Record Club. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you like the content, why not subscribe? All right. I'll see you next time. Stay rocking.